I am a fool. That is one thing for certain. Hello, gang. Happy, what's today? Thursday. It's Thursday. So everything's breathing. I think that's the title I'm going to put on the video that you're watching that I'll probably post it on Facebook and LinkedIn. So I think I kind of went over it yesterday. Uh, there was a lot of reasons. I do a lot of channeled writing, and I wrote this thing called Our Evolution. And I realized, this whole process I went through this last year had more to do with, I was creating a decentralized business. And so any of you out there, if you really want your business to just go nutso and just attack the market, and I just completely respond to market uh, signals, then get a hold of me. I know how to make it work. Okay. All you have to do is get rid of all the conflicts of interest. It's just like a regular body. There's so many conflicts of interest inside a business now that, there's just too much going on there. So the relationships break down, communication breaks down, and then the business breaks down. So, and that business model has been running for years and years and years. That tiered management model where you make more money as you increase management. And you might ask, well, how are you going to change that? Well, call me and I'll let you know. But I realized that wasn't really as important. So I've always aimed to try and be of service in the best way that I thought was going to be the most beneficial for the most amount of people. And so I realized after I wrote that, and so I was subconsciously getting really frustrated. And in the last week, you could tell my posts, especially on LinkedIn, that I was just like, it's just more aggravating. And I think my last post was something about how, you don't really want anybody to work for you because you just left a business where, you were working for somebody else. So why would you start a business where people work for you? And I was just like, I don't know. It left a bad taste in my mouth after I posted it. And I'm sure it left a bad taste in a bunch of people's mouths after they read it. They're like, man, who is this guy? We don't want to have anything to do with him. So, and it was just because, and it wasn't because in a way, it is true, right? We're all trying to work together. But in another sense, I was just getting frustrated with the direction I was going subconsciously. And it was because what I've always wanted to teach is the state of reality and how to breathe, right? So you set your intent, and this is the natural way that everything breathes. Everything is breathing, right? So um, there is no perfect insulator out there. We're constantly trying to find the perfect insulator for our houses so we don't get rid of all of our heat. And so asbestos is one of the best insulators out there, but it's also really hazardous. I'm going to turn my ringer off, right? What's happening here? So, and silver is probably one of the things that breathes the best as far as atomically speaking, because it conducts the most electricity out of all the elements. So, well, in its natural state, before we start getting into superconductors or anything like that, but um, everything's breathing, and the more conflicts you have in your body, the less you're able to breathe. So you have more subconscious conflicts and your body starts to break down. And if your body isn't at rest, when you go through stress, it can't heal. So it's important, for what we're going through right now as a society, to make sure that if you feel like you're in pain or emotional pain, make sure you're getting rest. Don't try and push through it. Make sure you're getting rest and just try and get to the bottom of what you're feeling and why, and just let it go. That it's the best way to handle that. This whole process I went through this last year that's the number one thing it's taught me, is don't ever try and just push through pain, because you're ignoring something that's trying to teach you a lesson, right? Your body is doing something for you that is telling you something very important. It's telling you how to respond to something. So do your best to try and listen to your body. Meditate, right? Do your morning meditations. Sometimes it's very difficult, especially if your mind's racing, but do your best, because it will allow you to get to the bottom of maybe why you're having trouble, thinking about something, and just breathe. So you're always trying to listen out there and then provide for what is needed. And so, that's exactly what I'm doing, right? I'm in that process of breathing, and I've had to refocus myself over and over and over, die to old versions of myself and keep being reborn. And because I'm always serving in a different way, if you can understand that. I have a lot of stuff to offer over the past year that are beneficial, but like I said in my Outer Evolution post, if you never go through that process where you're forced into self-mastery, where you have to face your fears, and you're uh forced to keep from moving into uh despair, right? It's easy to just fall into despair. Well, like nothing's ever going to work out for me. The market's going to crap and everything's going to hell. I mean, that doesn't do anybody any good, right? Because that becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. So you really have to be able to transmute those energies and create self-mastery, where it doesn't matter what you go through or where you're at. And all of the gurus have talked about this, and there's a lot of really great spiritual teachers online that have come from rags, not to necessarily riches, but they're in a comfortable state. They're in a managed comfortable state where they're managing their life correctly, because they came from a place where they could have stayed in despair, but they pulled themselves out of that and found out what it was that they had to offer. And so I thought that, teaching this message was a lot more important than just creating a decentralized system for business, right? I mean, it's good to make sure that people are working together, right? And they're happy working together. But as long as if you're always working for somebody else, and you never have to go through that stress process of growth, then you're just kind of stay stagnant, right? So I really didn't think it was in my best interest to help people stay in a system that they weren't comfortable. You really have to get out there and follow your heart. What is your heart telling you to do? Because that's always going to be where you need to go. And so my heart has always told me that I need to express myself to you guys. It's not that I want to be, popular, or, have a huge following or anything like that. It's just that I want to make sure I'm staying vulnerable, and if I don't share who I am and what I know with you, then who am I, right? Because we're all in this together, and I want to share as much knowledge with you guys as I can. So going back to breathing. So you just place your intent, and then you listen, and then you provide what you think you need to provide. And you'll go through that process of breathing, and you go through cycles. And these are, these are growth cycles. So you'll put something out there, and you'll get feedback. And according to that feedback, you'll realize, am I supposed to be going in this direction? And your intent will bring you things to support whatever it is you're doing. So you can do that thing. But as long as you're dependent on somebody else to do whatever it is you're trying to do, it probably isn't your life's purpose, right? Because you're kind of creating a codependency where you need this person to do that thing. It's almost like every cell in your body has its own purpose, right? And it's working together, but it's all contributing in its own special way. And all of us are so unique. It could be a group of you are musicians. So this isn't like a perfect example, but even a group of musicians who are all creating music are using a different instrument. So they're still a part of that group in a different way. In every group of electricians, because I was an electrician for 25 years, every group of electricians I worked with were always very individualistic. We all had our specific traits. Mine was I was always a support guy, because I knew how to do most of the things, and I enjoyed teaching people and supporting people, and helping make their jobs better, right? So everybody has their thing, right? I mean, that mine has always been support, so I'm gonna always be in this channel from now on. So yeah, that's how you change reality. And as long as you keep your intent pure, you'll start attracting those things as long as you believe in yourself and you don't fall into despair. So you'll have to go through self-mastery, especially when you start following your heart, because your heart's going to tell you to do things that aren't going to go after money. If your heart's after money, you're not really serving people, right? You're serving money. So don't ever do that, right? Try and figure out what you're going to do for other people and learn to master yourself and create that thing that you need to create, so that that's when your abundance will manifest, because you're doing things for people that you feel like you need to do. So one thing I do all the time, I'm hypersensitive. I've always been a very hypersensitive empath, and so even this morning I woke up with a headache because I could feel it. I went online, and the overall energy that I felt on LinkedIn, I'm pretty active on LinkedIn, is there's a sense of anxiety right now, and because the market is kind of retracting. So my advice to all of you that, if you're in a state of anxiety or you're confused, it's okay. It's part of the process, because if you just always think of the bigger picture, right? The bigger picture is the structures that we have now are breaking down, and it's basically people following their heart versus people trying to control. If you're trying to control the situation, the control is an illusion, right? That's why money in one sense is kind of an illusion, because money enables you to control where you go and what you do. But the reality is as as inflation goes up and everything, that illusion is going to keep breaking down. So you really want to start as soon as possible, at least do your best to create the best intent and serve the people around you the way that you feel like they need to be served. And you're working with other people, to create solutions for whatever it is that your heart desires, right? I mean, just do that thing that your heart desires. So I am going to start pulling tarot cards every once in a while. Now, as some of you might know, I have never done this online. I've done it for like friends and family, but tarot cards are not any different than any other kind of piece of information. You can use a tarot card. You can use a cards written on things written on a card. All you're doing is pulling something out of information that you already subconsciously know, that your higher self knows, that you're not, it's easier to access that information. Now, sometimes, like I just said, I get this overall sense of what's going on. So if I pull a card, the cards are just probably going to agree with the things that, my extra senses are already telling me. And so that's kind of what's going on there, right? You're just pulling information out of the field. You're part of this giant field of expanding awareness. I'm just breathing, right? You're always breathing information in and out. And so the field expands and collapses, and it, one way that I've used that I encourage any of you watching this to use is do channeled writing, or set an intent the night before to learn something. Ask your higher self, what is it that I want to learn? And then go to sleep. And in the morning, more than likely you'll be told, right? Because your field expands and you're at rest, and then you wake up and there'll be things that you learn about yourself, and it'll be in your best interest to keep doing that, because you'll learn that you are way more connected than you thought you were. So let's just pull 3 cards, shall we? And see what they are. The last time, can't remember what I got. Let's see. But the overall energy, is there's a lot of people going through different cycles in life, and everybody's on their own journey. So the best way to view any situation is, you don't want to, all of us are growing. So, if I were to look at myself, and of course, so this is the card that I was thinking of first thing this morning. I'm just going to leave the rest of it, because I don't think it matters, because I think this is the message, right? Now, this is proof that the message that I was getting last night for you guys is the message I'm supposed to be giving you today, the Fool card. Now, the Fool card, if you look at the Fool card, I'm trying to show it so it doesn't, it's the only zero card in the tarot deck. And if you look, he's taking a leap of faith, and he's got a, this cloak that's tattered, and it's got growth on it because he has to grow to keep taking this leap of faith. And all he has is a little satchel, and the white rose on his left hand is symbolic of his purity of heart. So that's what we're doing, right? We're taking these leaps of faith, and we have our faith that everything's going to work out all right. You don't really know which direction you're going to go. You're just going to keep throwing yourself out there and trying to serve the world the way that you think you need to serve the world, and keep the Fool. So what I watched last night, and I'm probably going to overlay on this video I saw in the YouTube link, Ethan Hawke, and I don't know if he did this a year ago. I can't remember how old this video is, but Ethan Hawke did a video about being creative, because you really want to open up your creativity, and that's kind of the only way you're going to do it, right? If you're ever working for somebody else, all of us get creative when we go home, and we enjoy going home after work because we can be creative with our shop, or we can build whatever we want. But if you can be creative all day long and every day, then your life, stays the way you want it to be. And that's what he's talking about. Make sure you stay creative and stay the Fool, because ultimately it really doesn't matter what people think of however it is that whatever you want to create, you just want to make sure that you stay in that spirit of creativity and be the Fool. I mean, this is my YouTube channel, right? It says I am the Fool. This is something I realized the end of last year this zero card, the reason it's the zero card is it's the beginning point of every other card in the deck. As I do more draws later, we can go over what the other cards mean, and what the suits mean. There's cups, wands, swords, and pentacles. Pentacles is material wealth, swords is mental, cups is emotional, and wands is your will. So those four suits, along with the major arcana, there's 22 major arcana. This is the first one of the 22 major arcana. They all have their own meanings. And I wrote, about what the judgment card meant in a certain position in my our evolution. It's our divinity. If you get it in that position where you're in the blockers and inhibitions, you're really not recognizing your own divinity. And just the fact that I pulled this one card, and it was the first thing on my mind last night after watching that video, and it was the thing that I was thinking of this morning, and this is the beginning of a long series of videos for this channel, I think it's probably appropriate, don't you think? Anyway, have a good day, guys, and I'll see you tomorrow.